Salutation, dear audience. Prepare to be inspired and empowered as we delve into the realm of business triumph on Elevate Your Business. I'm Ed Jurecki, your host for today's enlightening episode. Thank you for being part of this enriching experience. Our show is dedicated to enlightening and equipping business owners, professionals, and aspiring entrepreneurs like you with essential knowledge and insights from experts who have achieved success in their life and business. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a very special guest, Dr. Alexandria Zalenski. Dr. Zalenski is a seasoned investor and entrepreneur with over 12 years of experience in financial services, real estate investing, and business transformation consulting, serving clients ranging from Fortune 500 companies to government agencies. As a former Air Force medic and current Special Operations Pararescue military spouse, she actively contributes to veteran services and initiatives addressing military sexual assaults, while also holding a doctorate of psychology and teaching experience as an adjunct professor. Dr. Zalenski's entrepreneurial achievements include a founding property management company, owning $1 million real estate holding company, and achieving a remarkable 165% increase in equity within 3 years using strategic financial techniques. As a founder of a premier online wealth building and consulting company, she is dedicated to sharing her expertise and empowering others, particularly military veterans, spouses, minorities, and students, to become successful investors and business owners. As Dr. Zalenski joins us on the show, she'll shed light on what success means to her personally and how her definition has evolved over time, as well as one or two of her top challenges and the lessons learned associated with them. And finally, for today, we'll explore how Dr. Zalenski has leveraged innovation in her business and other work to overcome challenges and achieve her goals. So join me in welcoming Dr. Alexandria Zalenski as we embark on another incredible episode of Elevate Your Business. Without further ado, Dr. Zalenski, Alex, how are you doing today?
Ed, much appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Can't complain. It's a beautiful day out here in Portland, Oregon. How are you?
Doing incredibly well. Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. I'm honored and privileged. You have an absolutely incredible background. So to start with, could you share with our audience a little bit more about yourself and your business?
Yes, absolutely. So for a little bit about myself, I originally started my professional career in the Air Force. And during that time, back when I was 20, I ended up house hacking and started my entrepreneurial journey in the real estate investing world. I left the military to pursue a doctorate of psychology and organizational development. And then I ended up pursuing a consulting career with various Fortune 500 companies, as well as the DoD level, spanning between my time at Booz Allen Hamilton, as well as Accenture on the commercial side of consulting, and just really love consulting. And I love small business. I feel like I'm very privileged to be able to juggle both in different capacities. But yeah, so that's a little bit of background on myself. I ended up getting married to my husband, who I met back when we were at Nellis Air Force Base in North Las Vegas together a few years back, after being really great friends with him for over a decade. But yes, I was fortunate to pivot and relocate to Portland, Oregon, and keep my real estate investment and property management company, and then pursue my new business in the wealth advisory space.
Outstanding. I love it. And so you've had a heck of a journey so far through your career. Could you share with us, how do you define success today?
Yes. So I know a lot of times business owners will consider ROI, return on investment, being a major key performance indicator when it comes to success. But I consider probably one of my top key performance indicators would be return on purpose. So ROP, it's a little bit more intangible, but I like to look at my businesses and say, am I providing value to my clients and just the overall economy at large? And to that, I of course, I'll leverage my actual harder metrics, such as my return on investment and such. But to me, I'm more motivated on helping humans and people at large. And that's really why I went into the wealth advisory space. Because with my real estate investing company, and unfortunately, a lot of people would ask me, well, how did you become a real estate investor? And how did you get into such a cutthroat industry? And I played the long-term game over the course of 12 years. I went from one property to 6 doors. So yes, I consider my success being really focused on making sure I have the client's best interests at top of mind, while also really looking at things at large. Because in consulting, especially the larger corporation consulting firms. We really help to scale transformation, notably within the digital transformation space. But really, we're helping Fortune 500 companies be more efficient and effective, which is extremely rewarding. But when I sought to open up my wealth advisory firm, I wanted to have a company that can help everybody in all walks of life. And the beauty behind that is if somebody has an entrepreneurial spirit and they want to eventually become a business owner, I can help build that foundation for them, whether it's to figure out a good vehicle to save money so they can end up investing that into small business later in life, or just help them retire and be able to be financially free. So yes, that's how I assess my success, is how am I giving back to society at large? Am I able to effectively help clients from a consumer perspective to large scale transformations?
I love return on purpose. I love that ROP. I have to remember that. And if you don't mind, I might steal that.
Absolutely.
And so our journey never, well, rarely. I have met some people that their definition of success really has not evolved. So let me ask you the question. How has your definition of success evolved over your career?
Yes. So in the beginning, it was very much ROI driven in the typical sense. Am I being cost effective? Am I profitable with my real estate investing business? It's a lot easier to see it more black and white in that capacity. But when I really thought to myself, like, one, in my kind of that 9 to 5 work, I'm extremely competitive, especially with my doctoral background. I can easily go out and find a 6-figure job with my income. So to me, it was like, okay, well, I want to be in a business where there's an actual need to help any person out there. But then I also took a step back and looked at the competitive landscape in the wealth advisory fund. There's a lot of MLM style wealth advisory companies that are actually notably some of the biggest. So I wanted to make sure that my competitive advantage really focused on giving high quality, holistic advisory to people and not just sell them a simple product and then forget their names. I definitely wanted to make sure that one, client best interest was top of mind. Because to me, it was like, if I truly wholeheartedly build my business around what's best for people, at least, really assessing where they're at and where they want to be and figuring out how to be that bridge, the money will come. And since I'm able to really rely on my consulting background, to me, it wasn't a big rush to get into the wealth advisory space and just sell a bunch of products. So as I tested and used myself as the first guinea pig with the products, I bought every product that I'm actually selling to make sure I knew what it was like as a user getting, like a customer getting into these different products and strategies. So I figured, you know what, there's not a lot of people out there who would probably be as conscientious when it comes to using themselves as the first beta testing. So I figured, you know what, with a high degree of quality comes with great word of mouth, comes with the ability to scale off of a really solid foundation, as opposed to the quick and easy MLMs that kind of give you plug and play, but it's a little bit harder to assess quality. But yeah, so to answer your question, I see it as every time I gave my best foot forward and I felt like I was truly doing what was best from the client perspective, I felt like I always got really great karma, like within my consulting realm. When I first tried to get in consulting, I actually created this veteran transitioning, like 18-minute video, because a lot of military veterans came to me and they were asking, well, how do I tap into the corporate industry? And I had already figured out all the best practices to really fast track somebody who's a military veteran or spouse into the civilian sector. So then I was like, okay, let me put all the best practices in a quick video. And if I need to help coach a veteran, I could send them the video link and then immediately start answering questions around those services, as opposed to starting fresh for every potential person who wanted that free mentorship from me. So anyhow, I ended up streamlining that, and then surprisingly, or not surprisingly probably to someone like yourself, Ed, but that simple video kind of showed employers that I was willing to go above and beyond to make sure clients were taken care of. So I found myself being scouted with some of these larger consulting firms. And I can't say it's just because of that free video that I created, but it definitely helped show that I came from a position of purpose rather than what can I get out of other people. So Yeah, it's one of my favorite books called Outwitting the Devil. They kind of talk about this concept of being a go-giver as opposed to like a go-getter. So those who give tend to get. And the more that I showed people that I was willing to support their efforts without expecting anything in return, the more people wanted to work with me and employ me and give me contracts. So it's definitely this delicate balance of giving to those and also getting those returns later.
Excellent. I love it. And I love your focus on the small business and the purpose, like I said, the ROP. So I just kind of love your focus relative to it's really about other people. And so when you think about that journey, it's not an easy journey. And especially when you're focused on just the relationships, because in today's day and age, you can't hard sell. You can't. You're not going to be successful. But it takes time to build out that. So when you think about this journey to get to where you're at and where you want to go, what are one or two of the key challenges and the lessons learned that you've worked through?
Yes, I would absolutely have to say it's getting the right people within my team has probably been the biggest challenge and also had the best outcome. So, for example, when I got into the wealth advisory space, I figured I'm probably going to turn my initial set of mentors. I just kind of anticipated that. But they gave me the push to really focus on launching this new business. So I'm very grateful for them. You know, there's a season for certain people in your life, and some people are there for a lifetime. But I really took the time to do a major environmental scan. So whenever I do any kind of effort, I have a phase zero. So typically, whenever it comes to consulting projects or just how I make decisions personally, I will have a phase zero, and then from there I'll have a 4-phase process. So phase zero is environmental scan. It's really assessing the industry landscape. I feel like whenever people are presented certain opportunities within a new industry or whatnot, they take it, they see a person who's willing to teach them, and then they just go with it. And then it makes sense from a convenience timing perspective. But for me, wanting to be very intentional about making sure that the end strategy of my business would truly be of the highest caliber, I wanted to make sure I did a full environmental scan. So after the environmental scan, after I assessed different competitors to potentially partner with, go back and forth and kind of compare and kind of go through that bidding process, then I go through a 4-phase process. So that would be prepare, assess, develop, and execute. So, of course, these 5 phases in the grand scheme of things go hand in hand, and you're kind of building the plane as you fly it. But to me, it's really important that the environmental scan gets sufficiently thought of. And I don't think a lot of business owners think about that. I think, again, with the convenience factor and timing, they'll get into it that way. But for me, since the priority was quality, having that differentiating strategy where I can honestly say that someone going through me will have a holistic view of their wealth and not just one piece of the pie. And if I can't necessarily do the servicing, I can have other people in my network that have been vetted that I've personally used, so they can help out with those additional pieces. So for example, as a wealth advisor, if I see a client needs a CPA or a good accountant, a good bookkeeper, those are all pieces of the financial advising space. So I want to make sure that I can plug them in to the whole pie as opposed to just one piece and then say, hey, good luck. So anyways, so bringing it back to challenges, it's really making sure one does their due diligence and really vet each individual, because every time you meet somebody, you want to have goodwill. You want to expect that they're giving the best with their clients, but everyone has different priorities. Some people have the priority of speed and it takes away from quality, but a business owner can only focus on so much. So you can't necessarily knock McDonald's for having their business model, like their business model serves a place and a reason. So yes, when it comes to challenges, especially me starting up a new company, it was doing a very deep environmental scan, doing a solid stakeholder analysis and competitive analysis of what partners I could be working with. Because I accept that because I'm technically new to this industry, one of my gaps was that I wanted to make sure that the advisors and partners could compensate for my lack of industry experience outside of the real estate investment side of things. So my partners have decades of wealth advisory experience. They have a ton of resources as an independent broker. So I was successfully able to identify the gaps and fill them with really high quality services, but at the same time, I had to go through the trials and tribulations of assessing each potential partner and doing a comparative analysis and having to hurt certain feelings when it's like, hey, unfortunately, you weren't necessarily the best qualified to help my target market. So having to let certain people down. But it's easy to let certain competitors down when you know that you're doing it for the right reasons from the beginning. So anyhow.
So what I take away from that is you've got a very defined and thorough system for evaluating the opportunities that are sitting in front of you. And then the other thing that I heard is getting the right people on the bus and getting them into the right seats on the bus.
Yes.
So as we take that question to the next, it's innovation. And innovation is people, process, and technology wrapped in a culture that delivers win-win-win outcomes. Win for the customer, win for the business, and win for the people that are involved in that. Employees, stakeholders, strategic partners. So when I define innovation that way, how is innovation helping with your success in your business?
Yes, absolutely. So with my partners that I'm particularly assessing, I want to make sure that they're leveraging AI in some kind of capacity. Otherwise, it's just really redundant work. That's kind of a waste at this point. So the partners that I'm assessing, I'm making sure that one, they use AI, that they have technologies that I want to encapsulate for my business, since I'll be leveraging whatever systems that they have in place. So I want to make sure that the partners that I involve myself with have a research and development arm in some capacity, because I want to make sure that I can defer to their subject matter experts in said specialties. So with Producers Prospect, for example, Mark Rogers, who's one of my key partners in the wealth advisory space, he has entire teams dedicated to each product. He has an entire marketing department. So for someone like Mark, the reason why he won my partnership in business was because he was able to demonstrate how he's leveraging all these tools that are industry standard within the wealth advisory space. So yes, if I was a typical owner operator, I would have to be pushing out and using these systems more on a operator level as opposed to the business owner. So thankfully, Mark already has all these technologies in place and it's kind of plug and play. But yes, being able to leverage teams that focus on research and development was huge.
And that allows you to continue to move forward and adapt to new opportunities that align with your vision, your goals, as those innovations actually are created. So you got a team, there's a process of R&D associated with it, and you get to piggyback on that and engage yourself with their research and the application of it within your business. Is that a way to say that?
Absolutely, yes. I think it's been interesting going back to the challenges piece. Being the business owner, especially when you're in a startup phase, you really have to juggle the tactical level work that is probably a little bit more transactional nature versus the more strategic level work. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges for a lot of business owners, is that they're constantly juggling being the operator versus the actual owner. And there's only so much time in a day. And you really do have to learn to defer to somebody's expertise and delegate. So that was my biggest focus coming into this business, was really making sure that I had that strategic view before I dove into the tactical level pieces. Because if the strategy is solid, if all the right teams are in place, it's a lot easier to manage versus having to do everything by yourself. And I think that's where a lot of small business owners struggle.
And also by starting at the top and defining your goals, it allows you to filter out those tasks that are less important than others and get the right focus. And you're absolutely right. I chuckle a little bit because, yeah, being a business owner, especially for a newer startup, requires a lot of tactical engagement. And when you're not used to it, it is a major step. And on the flip side of it, if you're an artisan that is a wonderful craftsperson producing wonderful product or service or both, and then you've got to start pulling yourself out to think about that bigger picture, that's just as challenging. So, yeah, business ownership is not an easy thing, is it?
Not at all. It definitely requires that passion to really get through, because I would say being an entrepreneur, especially, startup, it's definitely a roller coaster, and that's natural in my opinion. That one day you feel really confident, you made the sale, things are looking up, your strategy is executing as designed, and then there's some days where you get a curveball, and those curveballs are necessary to kind of re-vector your business sometimes. But yes, it definitely ebbs and flows.
Absolutely, it does. So, final takeaway for our audience. If there's one thing you could offer them that say you really should consider this for your entrepreneurial success, what would that be?
Yes, network. Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't have gotten the consulting positions that I did without networking. I feel like when it comes to networking, you can be authentic with networking. I've seen two different styles from consulting. Some consulting firms advocate network with everyone. And I feel like in those instances, networking feels a little bit more transactional. But when you network with people with an intentional focus, so for example, with me, I tend to go on LinkedIn, I'll look up key role phrases, and then I'll tie it to like military veteran or something to that effect. So then I'll scan said network and then reach out. I'll kind of treat it like a sales approach. I'll just reach out to each of those individuals who meet my definition of what I'm looking for as far as from an advice standpoint. And then I'll message all of them. And then depending on who responds, I'll set up meetings with them and then pick their brain about what are the challenges, the pros, effort that they're working on that is alignment with what I'm trying to do. Then you quickly learn what to look out for, pitfalls before you even have to go through them. So anyhow, yes, when it comes to networking, I feel like, especially in the military space, people will sometimes see it as, oh, I don't want to burden people or so on and so forth. But when you're truly networking to have one-on-one relationships, you don't necessarily reach out to people to see what they can do for you. You also want to see, hey, well, how can I return the favor? You know, based on those conversations, those networking conversations, if someone tells me, oh, I'm interested in XYZ, I'm trying to figure out how I can give to them so I can build that kind of sense of reciprocity later down the road when maybe I really need it. So yeah.
It's all about relationships and building trust and credibility, and that does not happen overnight, does it?
It does not.
Yeah. Really, it comes down to, and I've thought a lot about this, and I've had several different conversations, but you got to not just get to know people, but you also have to share challenges from time to time. And I'm talking shared experiences from time to time to really get to those deeper relationships, whether that's through empathetic understanding or through direct experiencing maybe an economic downfall that you're both going through and you're supporting each other through that event. But relationships take time, but it's also the best way to build that trust and credibility.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Ed.
Any final thoughts?
No, Ed, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being willing to have this podcast with me. And I learned so much. I'm actually standing up my own podcast. So I'll definitely be taking some of the best practices from this engagement. So thanks again.
It is my honor, my pleasure. And if you do need any help, I am happy to help you. It took me a little bit, so if I can make the process a little easier for you, I'm more than happy to do that.
Much appreciated. And if there's anything on my end that I can do to help support your efforts, please let me know.
I appreciate that. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and a special thank you to our incredible guest, Dr. Alexandria Zalenski, for sharing her insights, experiences, and success tactics with us. We hope this conversation has left you inspired and motivated to embrace the challenges of entrepreneurship with vigor, innovation, and adaptability. Remember, success comes in many forms, and it's essential to define it for yourself. But take the lessons shared by Dr. Zalenski to heart as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Embrace change, seek out opportunities for growth, and always be willing to adapt to the ever-evolving landscape of business. Thank you once again to our phenomenal guest speaker, Dr. Alexandria Zalenski, and thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time as we continue exploring the stories behind incredible entrepreneurs. Stay resilient, stay innovative, and have an awesome day, everybody.